Machines have been around for a long time, but for the first time in centuries, machines are starting to become intelligent. Artificial intelligence is starting to take shape right here, right now. With many AIs being designed to mimic humans, at what point can we no longer distinguish man from machine?
Okay.
For most people, the answer to this question is our emotions.
Right after you eat this!
But unfortunately, that line isn't as straightforward as most people believe. To determine if a machine can or will ever feel emotions, it's important to ask two questions that will define everything. The first is, can artificial intelligence evolve? And the second question is, are emotions a necessary aspect of higher cognitive thinking? I think a really good showcase of machines and emotions is the movie WALL-E. Personally, WALL-E is my favorite Pixar movie. It is set in a world where machines are given autonomous thought as part of their programming. One benefit of autonomous thought is that it will allow the machines to make more complex decisions even when there are many unknown variables.
Interactive. Classified.
But a side effect of autonomous thought seems to be the development of emotions. Now, I don't think the creators of these robots necessarily wanted them to have emotions, nor thought it was possible for them to develop emotions.
Go to full autopilot, take control of everything.
So it is pretty clear that emotions are simply a byproduct of their autonomous thinking. Now, there are a boatload of reasons why WALL-E deserves to be on the Hall of Fame of animated films. Its scathing satire of capitalism,
Attention Axiom shoppers, try blue, it's the new red.
its ironic juxtapositions of machines and humans, how humans are more robotic and the machines are more humane. Tones so dark and themes so deep, embellished in a quirky animation style and fun action sequences, that most of it probably went over our head as a kid. In an era dominated by The Terminator and The Matrix, WALL-E was truly ahead of its time. Let's address the first question. Can artificial intelligence evolve? The short answer is yes. A chessbot gets better by playing itself hundreds of times simultaneously for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no rest and no break. The weaker iterations and their thinking processes get eliminated. I'm oversimplifying here, but this is called machine learning. And it's pretty much a sort of evolution, but our question is more scoped at whether or not AI can obtain autonomous thinking from this type of evolution. And this question is a lot harder to answer. For a chessbot with very strict programming made to simply play chess with itself, it's very hard to imagine it can or will ever start randomly playing checkers, for example. But what if it somehow came to the conclusion that playing checkers will ultimately help its own chess playing abilities? Could it then alter its path a bit, whilst still trying to get to the same destination? After all, with our complex thinking and cognitive abilities, humans still evolved from non-thinking DNA, which you can pretty much think as our programming. One could argue that there is a degree of randomness in biology and chemistry that allows for things like random mutations to happen, but I believe that the same randomness does exist in AIs as well. What if the coding of a chessbot was a bit less strict, with little to no instructions except for the goal of being the best chess player? What will it do then? Or let's just say, for argument's sake, we simply gave the chessbot autonomous thinking even outside of chess, so it can make even more decisions. What happens then? With autonomous thinking comes the need for survival.
Interactive.
After all, you can't clean rubbish if you're dead, and thus invokes evolution, including the evolution of emotions. In WALL-E, not all machines have emotions on the scale of WALL-E or Eve. But most machines do still have emotions to some extent. For example, the robots on the expressway were frustrated and angry when Wall-E bumped into them. Similarly for M.O. when he saw Wall-E contaminating the spaceship. In fact, M.O. even managed to break its own programming because it believed it was more important for its purpose of cleaning. Now, the humans in Wall-E don't act that differently when compared to the robots.
John.
They follow the same paths and do the same tasks day in and day out.
Time for lunch. In a cup.
Sure, they still have emotions, but it's safe to say that they are pretty emotionally saturated. It isn't until Wall-E arrives and sets up a wave of emotional self-awareness that both robots and humans alike start to break from their programming.
Hi.
Now it's time to address the second question. Are emotions important? For humans, we seemingly need our emotions to connect to one another and stay cohesive as communities. Evolutionarily speaking, those that didn't really care for each other simply just died out in the wild by themselves. But if we were a tad bit smarter and able to logically deduce that sticking together was a better option, do we still need our emotions? If we had complete control over our body, do we still need those hormonal reactions like the fight or flight response? I think the answer is starting to become apparent. I do believe that if you are omnipotent, you probably don't need any emotions to dictate how to survive. But the problem is, nothing in this realm is omnipotent. Not Albert Einstein, not ChatGPT, and certainly not Wall-E or Eve. Our emotions are instinctual, and they fill in the gaps where our logic and knowledge fails. It's essential for our survival and development as a species. Wall-E feels happiness, sadness, love, fear, and everything in between. When we feel fear, it's because we have discerned that there is a threat or potential threat.
That's fear. He's really good at keeping Riley safe.
Our bodies then react due to the hormonal response catalyzed by fear. For a machine, this seems impossible since they don't have hormones. But if we think a bit outside the box, it doesn't really have to be a one-to-one mirror image of our psychology. For example, the Wall-E robots might have a protocol to box up when they see a potential threat. In this case, the transmitters aren't hormones but simply electrical signals. Potato potato, Wall-E can and does feel fear. But we all know with personal experience that sometimes emotions can lead to bad decisions. Eve is able to abandon her mission because of Wall-E, and vice versa. But even with these imperfections, emotions still give us a huge edge. In the end, Eve still achieved her purpose, but this time because of her emotions for Wall-E. I think Order is the only machine that is determined to follow its protocol, and its logic never failed, it's simply following its programming. And many people think that Order's method to ensure humanity's survival was the best option.
I insist you give me the plan.
But again, Order is not omnipotent and it doesn't have all the facts. Let's just say hypothetically humans can survive forever and ever on the spaceship, given that nothing goes wrong. At what point does the ship malfunction, or an asteroid hits, or their sun explodes, or an alien species invade? There are millions of ways they can die. In their current state, technology will not advance and humans will soon go extinct.
I didn't know we had a pool.
However, it is the instinctual and emotional side of both the robots and the humans that will drive technological advancement and further evolution.
I don't want to survive! I want to live!
With artificial intelligence in its current state, these big questions are becoming increasingly important. I'm not claiming to be an expert in machine learning or psychology, but I do think it's important to start thinking big. If Wally and Eve care more about each other than you and I, we've got a problem. Most people worry about machines' lack of emotions, which could make them cynical or even cruel.
I'll be back.
But have you ever wondered that maybe they could even teach us a thing or two about emotions? After all, Wally went to the stars and back for Eve. How many of us can say the same?